Hello, I'm the Ностальгирующий Critic. I remember it so you don't have to. And welcome to another edition of Old vs. New. This is where I take something old and nostalgic and compare it to a recent remake. With that said, let's take a look at Lord of the Rings. Becoming the holy bible of geekdom, Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien has revolutionized the style of fantasy and given a whole new respect to the genre. Many of us know about the Peter Jackson movies based on the books that came out between 2001 and 2003, but there was another version that came out in the 70s that a lot of people don't know about. This was Ralph Bakshi's Lord of the Rings. While considered both a critical and box office disappointment, Bakši's Lord of the Rings offered a very different take on the classic story, and has since then either been loved by fans or detested by them. But is it anything compared to the big-budget extravaganza of the Jackson movies? Now, technically speaking, this is all opinion-based. But I have an online show, which automatically means that my opinion is better than yours. Nah. So, let's take a look at Ralph Bakshi and Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings. Now, seeing how the Ralph Bakshi film ends at the exact same point that the Peter Jackson film The Two Towers ends, I decided to include The Two Towers in this comparison as well as The Fellowship of the Ring. With that said, let's take a look at our main character, Frodo Baggins. One of the things I love about the Jackson Lord of the Rings movies is the casting. Everybody in these movies looks the part, and when I heard Elijah Wood was going to play Frodo, I thought it was the best casting since Keanu Reeves played that mentally retarded boy in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
But my own adventure turned out to be quite different.
He was kind, innocent, and extremely vulnerable, but maybe a little too vulnerable. In the Bakshi version, Frodo is just as wide-eyed and curious, but he does fight back, and can also stand up for himself. Now true, they both saved Sam from Gollum, but the Bakshi one seems to be a little tougher and in control.
I would put it on and command you to leap off a cliff or into a fire. And you would do it, Smeagol.
Like here's when the Black Riders try to attack. Frodo actually gets out his sword and does try to fight. In the Jackson one, he just drops it!
If you could kindly stab yourself with that, I'd be most thankful.
Or how about another encounter with the Black Riders? Even though he's sick and can barely stay awake, he actually manages to make his way past the river and even intimidate them.
The ring! The ring!
By all the Shire, you shall have neither the ring nor me!
The Jackson one just sort of passes out and lets someone else carry him off. By the way, how does that work? If the sword wound works its way to his heart, he becomes one of the Black Riders?
Would I have?
You would have become like them, one of the ring wraiths.
Wouldn't that be a little, awkward? I mean, I don't think they look as intimidating if a little guy in a cloak is running around. Maybe they just give him a desk job.
I do hate Mondays.
Even though I love Elijah Wood as Frodo, the Bakshi one just seemed a little stronger, as well as closer to the book. No offense, Wood, but point goes to Bakshi.
What do you know about it? Nothing!
But what about the supporting cast? The little people who make it possible for the other little people. There's a lot to get through, so let's take a gander. Now this one's really hard because the rest of the cast is sort of hit and miss. Sam in the Jackson film, for example, is a tough, loyal friend who will stick with Mr. Frodo through thick and thin.
Don't you leave him, Samwise Gamgee, and I don't mean to.
While Sam in the Bakshi film is...
Oh my! Oh, hooray!
not. I mean, good God, what did they do to you, Sam? I really don't know what went wrong with this character, but they fucked up royal.
Save me, Mr. Frodo! Oh, Mr. Frodo, he's gone! He's sick and he needs a rest. Help him, Frodo!
And I want my bottle! Someone give me my bottle!
Oh, hooray!
Oh, God, shut up! Which is funny because Merry and Pippin are at the opposite ends of the spectrum as well. In the Jackson film, they're a little overplayed, making them a tad too goofy, but still all around likable.
That was good. Let's get another one.
Where in the Bashki film, they're actually underplayed, seeming a little bit more like real-life people, but to be honest, not leaving much of an impression.
You cannot trust us to let you face trouble alone and go off without a word. We're your friends, Frodo.
Well, thank you, Pippin.
I'm Merry.
Whatever, you're all short. Gandalf is good in both versions, creating that strong mythical element while also mixing in the side effects of his age.
Oh, useless.
This last journey must be for others to make.
Ah, and who are they to be?
That is what we're trying to decide here.
My only problem is in the Bashki film, he's a little too over the top. Like, compare these two scenes where he yells at Pippin.
Fool of a took. Throw yourself in next time and rid us of your stupidity.
Fool of a took. Throw yourself in next time. Fool of a pig. Won't you? Won't you? Won't you?
But one of the biggest differences is Aragorn, which is totally blown away by the Bashki film. Now granted, I'm not quite sure why he looks like a Native American, that certainly wasn't the design of the book, but the character is still a million times better. Why? Well, being voiced by John Hurt, one of the greatest actors of all time, certainly helps.
My name is Aragorn, son of Arathorn.
But on top of that, the idea behind Aragorn is that he was both a ranger and a king. With the Jackson version, you certainly buy the ranger part, but I never really saw anything kingly in him.
Put aside the ranger. Become who you are born to be.
By killing things and slaughtering evildoers. Just do it very kingly. The Bashki one seemed to pull off both. He could be a badass, but he could also be very smooth and diplomatic.
Lothlorien is a place of healing. There is no evil in it, unless a man brings evil there with him.
On top of that, he could also be very intimidating.
Because if I wanted the ring for myself, I could have it. Now.
Please don't kill me. The Jackson one never seemed to have that confidence or inner strength that the other one had. I mean, the only kingly thing he ever did was make a motivational speech.
I see in your eyes the same fear that would take the heart of me. A day may come when the courage of men fails, but it is not this day. This day we fight!
I mean, who the hell could possibly get a role of leadership by having no political background and just making a bunch of pretty speeches? Okay, fine. But you gotta give them credit. They both have totally different ways of dealing with their problems. For example, when a horrible threat comes across King Aragorn, he bails them out with billions of dollars and hopes they know how to spend it wisely. Bajing! For Aragorn's weaknesses, though, the Jackson film makes up for it with the addition of Gollum, which is done much better in Jackson's version. Again, the Bashki one isn't bad. They certainly have the addiction down and the hinging towards madness.
Oh, yes. Yes, indeed. Nice hobbits.
But the Jackson one really took the character to a whole new level. He was devious, but sympathetic. When bad things happened to him, you felt genuinely sorry.
That would kill us! Kill us!
Plus, they really play around with the split personality bit.
Leave now and never come back. No! Leave now and never come back! I think we want Diet Coca-Cola. No! We want original Coca-Cola Classic! But we have to watch our calories, we're trying to lose weight! No! We love the calories! We love all of them!
You suck! Hell, you suck! There's of course a ton of other characters, but they're all kind of on the same level. They're good, but not great. Each having their strengths and weaknesses. Tough call, but I am gonna go with the Jackson one. Mostly because they have more time and 2 movies to flesh their characters out. And that's a huge advantage. Sorry, Gandalf. We still love you.
Fool of a pig. Won't you? Won't you?
But heroes don't mean crap unless you have some good villains to go up against. And these movies have plenty. Here they are. Again, from a casting point of view, you couldn't have gotten a better pick than Christopher Lee for Saruman. He looked the part, acted the part, but most of all, he sounded the part.
Sauron's forces are already moving. The 9 have left Minas Morgul.
God damn, is that voice cool.
I did not seriously think that a hobbit could contend with the will of Sauron.
I think it's another one of those voices you don't want reading bedtime stories to your kids, though.
Once upon a time, there were 3 bears. 3 innocent, sweet, unsuspecting bears.
The one in the Bashki film is okay, but you don't see much of him.
Where is the ring, Gandalf? Would you rather see the Dark Lord have it, or Saruman of many colors?
No! Please, don't flash me!
Something I never understood in the Bashki film, though, is for some reason they stopped pronouncing the S and simply call him Arrowman. Why? Is the S suddenly a bad word?
Only because Arrowman is kind. It should have been his friend Arrowman. How long since Arrowman?
Saruman,
you idiot! It's pronounced Saruman! The S isn't silent!
Also, how come Gandalf can never figure out that Saruman's gonna be a bad guy? I mean, do these look like the homes of any decent people you know?
Your love of the halfling's leaf has clearly slowed your mind.
Oh, stop hushing my buzz! The Black Riders are a little hard to decide between two. I mean, the Jackson ones were cool, especially how you never see their faces. But the Bashki ones were also pretty intimidating, ranging from fragile, creepy folk to tough soldiers of darkness, almost as if their powers veered in and out at times. Though again, they do go a bit over the top at moments. Oh, get the Tylenol. Also in the Jackson version, I thought the way they looked when you put the ring on was a little goofy. In fact, I never liked the way things looked when you put the ring on. It's like a 3rd grader went nuts with the smudge tool on Photoshop. In the Bashki film, they don't really change, but you can tell you've entered a different world. Everything's slower, the color changes, it's almost like a different state of being. But for me, the big deciding point is the Lord of Darkness himself, Sauron. And, believe it or not, I actually like the Bashki one better. Simply because you never see him. The most we get is a guy in a Viking hat, which isn't very intimidating. But everything else is kept a mystery. You never see him, but you can always feel his presence simply by the way people talk about him.
Under the power of Sauron, the Dark Lord of Mordor.
Look at the scene with the eye in the fountain. You can't even tell that it is an eye. But the fear that fills everybody is still present.
Do not touch the water. He's looking for you. The door is closed. If your quest fails, then nothing can stand against him and we are defenseless.
Now let's look at the Jackson film. It's just too overblown. The eye looks more like a lizard's eye, which indicates Sauron is more of a monster than he is a man. And even his costume seems over the top. There's just nothing subtle about him. When I think of the Lord of Darkness, I think of something sneaky, conniving, and quiet. Not loud, bombastic, and in your face. I always saw Sauron as a plotter, someone who's waiting to strike in the shadows. Where this guy seems like the Hulk's metal pincushion.
Sauron smash! Oh, sword mean! Sauron have explosive diarrhea! Sauron go boom!
So, like I said before, tough call, but seeing how less is usually more, I have to go with the Bashki film. Because let's face it, no one can bring the dread and feelings of doom than the guy who directed Cool World. Point goes to Bashki.
Ooh, hooray!
Shut up! Well, that's all fine and good, but how can they beat the shit out of each other? Here's the best action scenes. Now both these films are unique in how they do their action scenes. Jackson's movies are a little bit more acrobatic and inventive, where Bashki's is a little bit more gritty and bloody. It's interesting too how the Jackson films do the Battle of Helm's Deep in all blue, and the Bashki film does the battle in all red. I don't even know why it turns all red. It just looks really cool. In another flip-flop, where the Bashki film has little build-up but a lot of payoff, the Jackson film has a lot of build-up but little payoff. What do I mean by this? Well, in the Bashki version, there's a real feeling of suspense and tension. I mean, when someone gets stabbed, you really felt like they're getting stabbed. In the Jackson one, they tempt death just a few too many times. I mean, they literally jump into the middle of an army of orcs, not once, not twice, but 3 times! And not once do they ever get a scratch on them. Mosh pit! I guess I shouldn't defend the Bashki film too much, though. I mean, look when they fire the arrows. The numbnuts don't even move! I'm far too proud to be searching for cover.
I like this place. There is good rock here.
Good rock that we won't be taking the least bit advantage of.
Message for you, son.
Now, of course, The Return of the King has some of the best action scenes ever, but since Bashki never made it that far, I really don't count it. But still, the action in the Jackson films really are better. They're more flashy, more creative, and more energized. I would have liked to have seen it a little bit more grisly and realistic, but then again, it is a fantasy, so I guess anything goes. Point goes to Jackson.
Then you know nothing.
So once again it comes down to story. Which one had the better plot, the better pacing, and the better delivery? Let's take story for the win! It is interesting how both Bashki and Jackson end their films at the exact same point. They win the Battle of Helm's Deep, and Gollum leads Sam and Frodo to Shelob. Even though in the book, Helm's Deep is in the middle and they already met up with Shelob.
He could let her do it.
She might help, yes.
And again, the Jackson film has the advantage that it has 2 films to explain the story, and where Bashki only has 1. Because of this, the Bashki film suffers. Characters can't be fleshed out like they should, and some characters just disappear altogether. Arwen never makes an appearance, and Eowyn I don't even think ever gets a line. She just stands there.
My sister-daughter, Eowyn, my only loyal kin, since her brother has disobeyed my commands.
Unfortunately, she's a mute. But the Jackson film at times seems a bit rushed too. Like, I never did enjoy the editing in the first film. It seemed way too fragmented.
Half the Shire's been invited.
Good gracious me.
He's up to something.
Oh, really?
All right, then, keep your secrets.
I like talking in sentences without any pauses, don't you? Yes, I do. I like it a lot indeed. Haha! And to Bashki's credit, for all the scenes he had to cut, the scenes it does keep in are often very quiet and usually allow for a lot of atmosphere. Which I think in a lot of ways is closer to the books. Take for example when Gimli finds out the dwarves in the mines of Moria have all been destroyed. Here's the Jackson version.
Here lies Balin. It's as I feared.
And now here's the Bashki version.
Yesterday, Balin, Lord of Moria, fell. An orc shot him from behind a stone.
He doesn't scream, he doesn't yell, he just slowly walks away to be by himself. That's a lot more powerful. But to be fair, Jackson's film has a lot of powerful scenes too, many of which weren't even focused on that much in the book. Like Arwen's debate about choosing immortal life is really looked into and analyzed.
You will linger on in darkness and in doubt.
There's even a few subtle scenes as well. Like in the Bashki film, Frodo makes a big speech about how they probably never get back.
I reckon we got enough left to see us to this Mount Doom. But after that, I don't know.
Oh, Sam, friend of friends. After that, if the ring goes into the fire and we're at hand, after that, dear Sam, just to get there. Just to get there.
Yet in the Jackson film, it's literally just summed up in a look.
You go ahead and eat that, Mr. Fogg. I've rationed it. There should be enough. For what? The journey home.
That look alone seems to say everything. And as the films went on, they did get progressively better and better, taking their time with the story and not feeling as rushed as before. So, while I have to admit it's not really a close call, there are a lot of elements in the Bashki film that are not only subtle, but really work well. There's a lot of over-the-top moments, sure, and some scenes don't really make sense, but what they do get right, they get really right. So, even though this is probably a surprise to no one, the film that really is better is the Peter Jackson versions, the superior movies. So there you go, Peter Jackson versus Ralph Bashki. But I do feel bad I'm not able to compare Return of the King to anything. Oh, wait a minute! The Wrecking Bass version! That's right, they did Return of the King! Well, I'll just compare those two then.
There's a way. There's a way.
Jackson. I'm the Nostalgia Critic, I've remembered, so you don't have to.